I hear from math teachers, indeed, all kinds of educators. Students today don't want to learn. All they want to do is play video games. Have you ever felt that way? Or they say, their attention span is too short. They spend hours playing video games, but can't pay attention long enough to learn a math lesson. Do you think that is true? Do you ever look at your students and think, who are these people? Do you find yourself saying things like, I wasn't like that when I was their age? If so, then you are absolutely correct. I mean, 21st century students really are a whole different species. They live and breathe technology. I jokingly say to people, if you have a problem with technology, just ask someone under 20. They can help you. People of a certain age like me may struggle with technology, but not the youth of today. For them, technology, especially cell phones, are like an extension of their body. My own two teenage daughters immediately know if their phone is no longer on their person. They'll say, "Where's my phone?" It is almost like they sense a disturbance in the force. So what is a math teacher to do? Tell them to turn it off and lock it away? Technology is their life, their world, and their future. Aren't we supposed to be getting them ready for their future? How can we do that when we try to take away such a huge part of it? I say try because it is a constant battle. It is a battle, and it is exhausting. I am here to suggest that there is another way. What if, instead of fighting against technology, we co-opt it for educational purposes? That's right. There are many ways that technology can greatly enhance learning. And today, I'm going to focus on one of the best uses in a math classroom, which is playing digital games. Now, I'm not talking about having your students play Grand Theft Auto during math class, but please, just hear me out on this one. Let's start by looking at what research has to say. Starting at the turn of the century, I'm talking about the year 2000, not 1900 here, researchers were already reporting that digital games could enhance learning. Mark Prensky specifically looked at digital games in the math classroom and suggested that the reason digital games are so engaging isn't the content, but the opportunity to learn. Children do want to learn. They spend hours learning how to play video games. We want them to learn. So what's the disconnect? Well, we expect them to learn with 20th century methods. They want to learn with 21st century technology. Remember, these students have had their hands on technology their entire lives. We need to step into their world. As reported in a meta-study funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which looked at 77 different studies on the effectiveness of digital games. Digital games showed significant positive effects on science, math, and literacy outcomes. These graphs show the grade distributions in several different university classes. One group was taught using games, and the other with traditional methods. Both groups were given the same assessments. Clearly, the students who learned with games learned the material better. So why are games so effective for learning? Let's start by looking at games. What are the key elements of games? First, they are highly engaging. They are goal-oriented. They are challenging, requiring critical thinking. They are active, not passive. Provide real-world settings and imaginary settings. Now, let's think about good learning situations. They are highly engaging, goal-oriented, challenging, active, not passive, provide real-world and imaginary settings. Yes, much of what goes into good learning coincides with the elements found in games. The biggest element is motivation. When a person is motivated, they can learn almost anything. Games can provide this motivation because they are engaging and provide goals and rewards. Also key to good learning is relevant practice, the application aspect of a lesson. Games are simulation experiences in which to apply skills. The learning occurs in a meaningful context. Another element of learning is receiving timely and relevant feedback and correction. The rewards and consequences in digital games provide that feedback and correction. Finally, remembering what is learned is also important, and the emotional aspect of games actually helps the players to retain knowledge. Obviously, which games students play is important. As the teacher, it is my job to choose the games that I assign to my students to play. I separate digital games into two categories: review games and teaching games, or games for math instruction. Review games are the most abundant and can be found on many websites for free or are available as apps that can be downloaded. These games can further be broken down into pre-programmed and teacher-designed. Pre-programmed games are like those found on many websites, such as LearnZillion, Math Playground. Even Khan Academy is gamifying their program. These sorts of games are good for individual practice or review of what has already been learned. As a teacher, I select the topics I want my students to focus on, but I have no control over the problem sets. I cannot choose which questions they do. Another type of review game is Kahoot. This is a whole class game that is on the web. You can get a free account as a teacher and get started easily. I have my own Kahoot games that I made, but if I don't have time to create my own game, I can choose from one of the many that are posted on the site. I will start with one I made on probability. As the teacher, I launch the game. I get to choose if I want the music on or not. Some students like the music, others don't. On their own device, students go to kahoot.it, put in the game pin and their name. Once the students' names are in, then we will be ready to go. If I don't like the name that they put in, I can kick them out and they try again. It is very easy to import images or text for the questions. Here is my first question. It is very important that students be able to see the teacher's screen. The question and answers are only shown on the teacher's screen. All the students see are the 4 colors and shapes at the bottom. Once everyone has answered, the students find out if they were correct, and I find out how they did overall. Next, a leaderboard comes up showing the top 5 students. Here is the next question for students to see. Again, they must see it on the teacher's screen. All they will see are the 4 colors and the 4 shapes on their own device. Now that everyone's answered, we see everyone did well. And again, here's the leaderboard. I can choose to go on to the next question, or I can end the quiz at any point. What I really like about Kahoot is that I can get the feedback. I can get a spreadsheet with the students and a list of how they did on each question. Or we can play again, or play a different Kahoot. Kahoot provides a lot of motivation, as the games are very engaging for the students. This is a great review game. Jeopardy is the same sort of thing. These last two will work in any class, not just a math class. The other category of games that I see are games that actually teach the math concepts or skills. I call these teaching games. The first game of this kind that I discovered several years ago was Motion Math. This is a very engaging game because it's very kinesthetic. Students move the handheld device to control the game. Unfortunately, you won't see the movement in this video. This game impressed me because it actually teaches the player what a fraction is. So by tilting my phone side to side, I was able to control where the ball would land. Now I need to hit the bar where the 1/2 would be. I am given progressive clues if I miss. That's the automatic feedback I get. This is really great for kids that need a little more movement in their day. The arrow tells me which way to move. Eventually, this game will move into decimals and percents as well. I remember when I first saw this game, I was amazed. It was the first time I saw any technology that actually taught a mathematical concept. In addition, there are other motion math games that teach other concepts, like addition and subtraction and place value as well. While motion math definitely belongs in the elementary classroom, there's quite a few middle schoolers who could benefit from it as well. Another teaching game is called Factortris, which is a variation of Tetris. Like Tetris, players need to fill complete rows on the right side. Students are given a number and need to select a rectangular array whose area is that number. Students need to think about what size the space is they need to fill and if that is a factor of the number given. This is an online game that helps to teach multiplication facts in a conceptual way. Like the game of Tetris, these pieces need to fit together. This means the player needs to think about the dimensions needed and how the given number can be broken down. Simple and easy to learn, but challenging. It certainly made me work. The last game I want to show you is called DragonBox. They have 3 different apps. One for teaching algebra basics to young children, one to teach algebra to middle school students, and finally, one to teach geometry. The first thing students learn to do is to get the box alone, which is isolating the variable like in an equation. Students then learn that they can add day and night cards together, which become a vortex that they can make disappear. Here they are learning that 2 opposites make 0, and removing 0 from a sum does not change it. Then they see that the board has 2 sides and that they can add cards, but the catch is they must add a card to both sides at a time. This shows how to keep an equation balanced. Eventually, the cube pictures turn into algebraic symbols as students learn to find the quickest, most efficient strategies to solve equations. Over the next chapter, students get into multiplication, division, and even factoring. By the end, students are solving equations that are quite complicated. The rules of this game follow the rules of math. These apps are quite revolutionary as they are teaching complex mathematical concepts through a digital game. It is almost like tricking students into learning. I do want to mention that for some students, math class can be very stressful. Whenever my classes play games, I tell my students, if this is going to stress you out, if this is going to make you more anxious, then just don't compete. You can just answer the questions as practice or review. You don't need to compete. You can decide if you want to compete or not. The last thing we want to do is make students more anxious in their math class. As time goes by and demand for instructional math games increases, hopefully we will see more designers creating games of this kind. I have shown you just a few that are out there. Try them out and then search for more. But let's put the fun back in fundamental.